What's up, everybody? Today, today, I want to do a different kind of video, more of a guide kind of because I've always loved Arcane Casters, and therefore I've experienced with them a lot. I did Sorcerers, I did Wizard, I did Arcanist, I tried a bit of everything, and what I figured was that many people just don't know what works for them or what doesn't. The cool thing with spells is that there isn't a min-maxy way to do things that much. It's much more what do you feel comfortable to do, what suits your party better, and such and such. So today I'm gonna do a quick guide. I'm gonna cover the first 4 levels of spells, which is quite far in the game. This is for like most of the early games and most of the March to Dresden. You'll only have access to those spells. That's even gonna be worse if you're a sorcerer or an arcanist. So I'm gonna do some of those because there's a lot of spells and it might be quite lengthy. So what exactly will this video be about? Well, first off, I'm going to talk a little bit about every spells, how they act and what they do, because some people just don't understand what they do that much. And then I'll say which are my favorite spells of each levels, because some of them are better than the others, obviously, but there is still a lot of choice at the top. Without further ado, let's get into it with the first level of spells. This is the first 2 spells you'll get, and yeah. So Burning Hand is basically a cone. You do fire damage. It's pretty cool. It's really strong against Swarm, and earlier on it's a good form of AoE, area of effect damage. Meaning, you can hit multiple creatures with this. It's gonna hit your friends too, unless you have selective meta magic, which you probably won't have by the time you use this spell. So it's not that great, but it's still pretty good. Color Spray is kind of the same thing, except it CCs the people for 2d4 rounds, and then they are blinded for 1d4 rounds. So they're stunned for up to 8 rounds, and then they are blinded for up to 4 rounds. That's insane earlier on. This is probably the best CC you'll have earlier on. That is instant, just boom, does something. Corrosive Touch is a touch attack. It deals damage within touch. It's not the greatest. Expeditious Retreat. It grants your character 30 extra base speed for 1 minute per level, being your spellcasting level here. This is great if you need to run fast. I usually put this on my Vivisectionist Rogue, so he can get to the enemy faster, or on my tank. Enlarged Person. This takes a full round to do, so you can't move when you cast this. This is important to note, but you can't precast it. Most people will do this. What does it do? Basically, whenever a creature grows or shrinks, it gets bonuses. So the smaller you are, the better dexterity you have, and the higher AC you have, but the lower strength you have. And the bigger you are, the lower AC you have, because you're easier to hit, obviously, but the more strength you have because you can just swat people away. So this is good for strength character. I don't have any right now, but I used to have Camellia, which did use some strength. So yeah. I would not recommend enlarging the tank, though. Enlarging the tank is dangerous because it incurs a penalty on AC, as it says. So the tank will be easy to hit. So it kind of depends. Do you want her to do more damage, or do you want her to be harder to hit? Ear-piercing Scream, excuse me, is an attack that you do that will daze the target for a few rounds, meaning they'll be unable to attack. You deal 1d6 point of sonic damage per 2 caster levels, so it's not that much. And if they successfully do a save, they will have the damage and negate the daze. So this is like kind of a point and click. It's not that great for the time being. Flame Burst is it's like a cantrip. It's a bigger version of the cantrip. It's not really anything to say about it. Grease is probably one of the best spell ever. When I said Color Spear was one of the only CC that was instant, Grease is the only CC that is insanely strong, and honestly, it's probably one of the best in the game for beginning. You should always pick this at first. So what it does is you place a little circle on the ground that will become Grease, and then people have to do a reflex saving throw to escape out of it. But if you're an arcane caster that kind of specialize in their like intelligence or charisma or whatever it is that makes your DC higher, it's impossible to move out of it. Now, there is a catch, because it will hit your friends too if they step on it. So you kind of have to put the edge of the circle where the enemies will be, and then your friends can go around the circle to hit them, right? Good thing about this, if you do it on spellcasters and archer, they will fall to their knees and they will not be able to cast at all. They are prone, their whole turn is lost. It's insanely strong, and I still use it, and I'm level 7. So that lets you understand how good it is at level 1. Hurricane Bow is pretty good. An arrow fired from a longbow will deal 1d6, but instead it'll be 1d8, but instead it'll deal 2d6 if fired from a hurricane bow. So it's like larger than the size of the bow, if you understand. It's kind of weird to say. It just makes your bow hit harder. It's a good hunter spell, like you can give that to Wenduag or Ashurele, if you know who those are. But yeah. Magic Missile, that's pretty good. It's guaranteed damage, which is always good. You can pair it with stuff that happens when you deal damage to people, but it's always good to have guaranteed damage. Do note that a lot of enemies can be immune to this, and the shield abjuration spell makes you immune to this also. Mage Armor, it gives you higher AC if you don't wear armor. Hypnotism is you target a few people and it will stun them. Well, it will daze them for 1d4, so they won't be able to attack. Magic Weapon is you make a weapon magical, it will make it better and avoid damage reduction. Reduced Person is the contrary of Enlarged Person. So where Enlarged Person would make your strength bigger but your AC lower, and Reduced Person will make your AC higher and gives you more dexterity. Shocking Grasp is you deal damage to one character next to you. The good part of this is that it's touch AC, which if you've seen my other guides, if you haven't, please go check them out. Shameless advertisement. So Shocking Grasp will target touch AC. Therefore, if it's an enemy with very low dexterity, which you can check with the Y key, and inspect the enemies, it's gonna be a lot easier to hit Shocking Grasp. Stone Fist makes your unarmed strike better. Snowball is damage, but I feel it's purely worse than Magic Missile. Sleep is like Grease, but it puts them to sleep. I feel it's harder to hit because it affects up to 4 hit dice of creatures, so it quickly falls off. Summon Monster will let you summon a few monsters. I'm not going to go into every monster they can summon, but summon spells are summon spells. Either you like them or you don't. I do like them quite a bit, but as I said, the decision is entirely up to you. Touch of Gracelessness. You reduce a creature unto fumbling down. The target takes a penalty to its dexterity equal to 1d6 plus 1 per 2 caster level. So you just drop their dexterity. They can do a fortitude save to half the thing. It's not that great. It can be good, but it's not that great. Vanish makes you invisible for a short period of time. if a check is required to see you, you add plus 20 to the stealth check. That's really good because you can touch your rogue and your rogue will be unseeable. Cause Fear, you've probably seen a lot of enemy use this in this game or the last one. Basically, you get a will saving throw, and it'll negate the fear essentially. And if the enemy is feared, they're just gonna run away from you. They're gonna use their whole action to do it. So that's pretty good. Ray of Enfeeblement and Ray of Sickening. I'm gonna go over the two of them because ray spells are kind of the same. In my book. You don't need both ray spells. I'm gonna start with that off the bat. I got them because I'm a Kuromancer, but you really don't need them. So what's up with those? The ray spells, you basically make a touch ranged attack against the creature. So most of the time you want them to be a low dexterity creature because you're gonna target their touch AC, which is basically everything but the armor. So you kind of want them to have high armor and low dexterity. Or else it's just never gonna hit, which is the problem with ray spells, is that there's two ways it fails. First, you can miss the ray, which is gonna be annoying, and second, the effect can be fortitude saved. So let's say Ray of Enfeeblement is gonna lower their strength, but they can save to half the lowering. So let's say it's 1d6 plus 1. So let's say like you lower their strength by 4. If they pass the fortitude save, you lower their strength by 2, which is not that big of a deal. Ray of Sickening makes them sickened for 1 minute, but they can have to. But the successful fortitude save negates completely the effect. Protection from alignment, basically you get more AC against certain alignment of your choosing. Shield gives you more AC. And it negates magic missile, so don't use magic missile if you see a mage use shield. This is really good on like Wolf Jiff, mostly. Stunning Barrier will basically, I always forget what this one does. You are closely surrounded by a barely visible magical field. The field provides +1 deflection to bonus to AC and +1 resistance to bonus on save. So basically it makes you harder to hit and harder to attack. Any creature that will strike you with a melee attack is stunned for 1 round. Once the field has stunned an opponent, the spell is discharged, and it can negate the stun with a will saving throw. So it's not that great, but it's not that bad. My favorite spells in these rows are Color Spray and Grease for crowd control, Reduce Person and Expeditious Retreat for buffing, as well as shield, and Vanish is pretty good situationally, and Magic Missile for damage. If you want to summon stuff early on, you can do Summon Monster, but I don't think it's worth it that early on. Shout out to Burning Hands also for being like one of the only AoE damage spell you get at level 1. Now, 13 minutes in, let's get to level 2. I'm gonna try to do it quickly, but it is what it is. Acid Arrow. You basically send an arrow of acid, it deals damage. Animal Aspect, you can choose from a bunch of animals and you get their buffs. It's a gorilla for like strength, monkey for dexterity, raccoon for stealth and trickery, and raptor for speed. Bear's Endurance, you get better constitution. Blur, you basically give concealment to someone on your team. It can be you or a friend. And basically, they are going to kind of blur in and out of existence for the enemies. That's going to give them a 20% miss chance on top of their AC. So there's a fifth of a chance that the attack will just miss completely. That's pretty good until we get to the next few spells. Bull Strength is going to give strength. Burning Arc is guaranteed damage. It's going to deal basically... It's gonna deal damage to a creature and then everything within 15 feet of that creature. And it deals 1d6 point of fire damage per caster level, maximum of 10d6, to the primary target. And for every additional target, they reduce the number of damage dice by half. So basically it's gonna do damage to one and then half that damage and then half that half damage. But it is a guaranteed damage, and that is insane, as we saw with Magic Missile. Eagle Splendor is for charisma. Create Pit is pretty cool. It acts like Grease, but I feel like Grease is just better than this. I'm gonna be very honest with you. It's still pretty good. Cat's Grace is AC and Dexterity. False Life is giving a few hit points to people. It's not that great. Fox Cunning is another buff. You can go through all of these and see which one you need, but you don't really need that many. Frigid Touch is basically like Shocking Grasp, but it kind of stuns them as well. You do need to hit a touch AC, and if you crit with this, they will be staggered for 1 minute, which is insane. But you do need to crit with it, which is not gonna happen often. It's a 20 on a d20 for a crit. Invisibility. The touch creature becomes invisible. It's like Vanish, but better. Hideous Laughter is a point and click save or suck spell. Basically, they're gonna do a will saving throw, and it will just negate the effect, or they will be able to take no action and be considered helpless. For 1 round per level, and they can save at the end of each round. Glitter Dust is great. Basically, you target an area, and they're gonna have to do a will saving throw. So basically, you're gonna cover in dust people, which are gonna make them impossible to be stealthed. That's great. And then they're gonna be blinded. They can negate the blind with a will saving throw, but the blind is awesome because it gives you 20% concealment chance. And if you have a high enough DC on your spells, Glitter Dust is gonna be insanely strong and it's gonna blind half of the time. Mirror Image is a great buff. Basically, you create 1d4 copy of yourself, and you have a chance whenever you're hit with a melee attack or a range attack to just dissipate one of the mirror image, and it's gonna absorb the blow completely. Molten Orb is 2d6 fire damage. It's just an orb, and it does damage to people around the target. Another Owl Wisdom is another buff. Scorching Ray, it's raise attack, so you target touch AC. It's kind of close range, and you may fire 1 ray plus 1 additional ray for every 4th level beyond 3rd. Each requires a touch attack to hit and deals 4d6 points of damage. So it's basically just damage. It's not guaranteed damage, but it's good damage if it hits. Scare is like cause fear, but around the people. What is wrong with it is that it causes them to run around, and it's a will partial save. Pernicious Poison, basically you touch a creature. I'm pretty sure you have to do a touch attack, and then it'll take -4 penalty on saves against poison, and they will have a harder time curing it. Stone Call, basically more damage. Summon Monster, another summon spell. This one is more worth than Summon Monster 1. Still not the best. Summon Elemental once again. Some people love summon builds, some people don't. I am very much for them, but I do love Necromancy build myself more. Bone Shaker is a Necromancy spell. Basically, you take control of their skeleton, which is really awesome and badass, and they're gonna take 3d6 no matter what, plus 1d6 additional per 2 caster level, they can save fortitude to half the damage, basically. Blindness is incredibly strong against bosses. It lasts forever. And basically, it's a fortitude negate. And basically, they have to beat you, rendering them blind. Whatever your DC is. So, let's say you put this on someone and it succeeds. They are going to be considered blinded for a while, which makes them a lot worse at hitting you in general. Web is kind of like grease. People like web or grease differently. Honestly, both are great, but web you gain at level 2, whereas grease is a level 1 spell, making grease a lot better. Command Undead is good if you know you're gonna hit undead creature. You can basically make them do whatever you want. Well, they're gonna attack mostly. Protection from alignment communal is the same thing as protection from alignment, but for everyone around you. Protection from arrows is pretty self-descriptive. Sense Vital, it'll make you really good at hitting stuff, and you will gain sneak attack essentially for a number of rounds per level. See Invisibility is pretty self-explanatory. Resist Energy, so the resist spell are kind of weird, right? Basically, you gain a 10 points resistance on elements or energy essentially. That's really good if you know you're gonna fight something that does like a negative energy damage as undead and whatnot. You can always use those. 3rd level. This is where stuff... Oh, I didn't say the best ones for me. I think the best ones for me are Burning Arc is really good if you like damage. Glitter Dust is insane. It's the best spell of this thing for sure. Mirror Image on melee builds is really good. Summon Monster 2 is pretty good if you're gonna use Summon Monster at all. And Web is pretty decent. I still prefer Grease because it's a level 1, but Web is pretty good too. On to the 3rd level. Third level is where it starts becoming a bit more intense. I will go through them kind of quickly and I'll kind of take it slower on the 4th level. So let's go. Battering Blast is a reflex save, touch, close range attack that deals damage basically. Beast Shape, you gain a bite and movement speed. Blink is a personal buff, and it makes you have 50% concealment instead of 20. Fireball is big damage, 1d6 of fire damage per caster level, so that would be basically 7d6. To every creatures in the area, the reflex save will have that. Displacement. The subject of the spell appears to be 2 feet away from the true location, and it will gain 50% concealment. Once again, it is a lot of rounds. Deep Slumber is like sleep, but better. Force Punch is a touch attack that deals damage. Greater Magic Weapon is you're gonna buff the weapon of someone in your party. Can be you, can be an ally, and it's gonna add modifier to hit and modifier to damage most of the time. Haste is a pretty big one. You'll target someone and everybody in your party around that person will basically gain more speed, more AC, more attacks, and more dexterity. Well, bonus to reflex save, which is the same thing as dexterity. Needless to say, it's pretty good. Lightning Bolt is damage in a row. It'll hit anything in a 120 foot line. It's really good for stacked enemies, and it's good damage as well. Hold Person will target an enemy. It will target their will save, so you preferably want a dumb enemy that doesn't have much will, and then it will hold them into place if they're a person. Every round they can save for it, and they'll just not be able to do anything. Heroism buffs attack rolls, saves, and skill check on an ally. Rage gives bonus to strength, constitution, and will save, but it makes you have less AC. Ray of Exhaustion is a ray attack, and it will make you fatigue or exhausted if you are already fatigued. Slow is like haste, but reversed. You'll target enemies, and it will make them have less AC, less movement speed, and less attacks. Summon Monster 3 is not the best. It's still pretty decent, but it's not the best. But you know, summon spells are summon spells. Stinking Cloud will target an area, and people will have to Fortitude save in this area. If they don't, they can't attack for a very, very long time, essentially. Be careful, this targets also your party, but if they don't, they will not be able to attack for a very long time, even after they leave the cloud, which is really important. Spike Pit is like Pit, and it's like Grease, but it does a bit of damage. It's a 3rd level spell for Grease, not really good. Vampiric Touch. Basically, you touch a target with a touch attack, and if you manage, you deal damage and you heal. Pretty good. Dispel Magic, you can dispel an ongoing spell, so if the enemy casts Stinking Cloud, you can probably dispel magic the Stinking Cloud. Protection from arrows. Communal makes everybody in your party protected from arrows. See Invisibility. Communal makes everybody in your party see invisibility. Resist Energy. Communal gives everybody resistance to energy in your party. And Protection from Energy grants temporary immunity to energy of a specific type that you can choose every time you cast it. For this level, the ones I would recommend the most are, in order, Haste, Stinking Cloud, Hold Person, and then anything else. Alright? Hear me out. Haste is the best buff in the game. Point blank. You need this spell. People take a mage in their party just to have this spell. It makes everybody in your party do insane damage. The good thing about it is that it does so much damage that it'll do more damage than Fireball even in a big situation, because it'll give your archer like 6 attacks. It'll give your rogue like 6 attacks of sneak attack. That's insane damage, and you will destroy anything in your path. Trust me, Haste is the best spell out there. It's probably better than any level 4 spells, honestly. Stinking Cloud is a better, essentially, Grease. It's bigger. You can cast it and dispel it the turn after, so you can walk around it inside, and your people will be able to attack. And the enemies will still have a few rounds of just walking around. It's 1d4 plus 1 round after they leave. After, not while they're in it. While they're in it, they're stuck in it. But after they leave, it's 1d4 plus 1. It's insane. And Hold Person is really good against singular, not unwise enemies, essentially. Onto the 4th level. You can see I don't have that many spells on this one. And you won't either. Right? So let's go through it, and let's see what you will prefer. Acid Pit is literally the same thing as Spike Pick. It's a different level of damage, but basically it's the same, honestly. It's just a level higher, which makes it worse. Animal Aspect Greater basically gives you more power than Animal Aspect. It's still the same though. Animate Dead, you create 1d4 plus 2 skeleton. So it can be 3 or it can be 6. Most of the time for me it's 3. They are like summons, but they don't get bonuses from summoning feats. That's very important to note. They don't get bonuses from summoning feats. They also count as undead, therefore positive energy will hurt them, so don't try to heal them. Just let them go. But they are very disposable, and they will get better and better. Because I'm a cruel romancer, I get this by default. And since I'm going for a lich route in this character, it's one of my most used spells. But if you don't like summons, you don't like summons. And that is perfectly fine for everybody. Contagion basically gives them one of those sickness. You can pause the video to read them. I'm not going to read all of them. Essentially, they just affect... they affect basically one of their damage. Confusion. Basically, they're gonna roll a D100. Once again, you can pause the video and read what it does. They can not be able to act, so they might act normally. They might do nothing. They might hurt themselves, or they might attack the nearest creature next to them. B shape, you get claws attack and bonus to strength and AC. Control Fireball is like Fireball, but it will not hit your allies for one more level. That's pretty good considering you don't need meta magic to do it. Selective Fireball in meta magic would be pretty much the same. Crushing Despair, an invisible cone of despair causes great sadness in the subject. Each affected creature takes -2 penalty on everything, essentially, but it's a will negate save, so it's a save or suck. Dimensional Door, basically you can teleport, which is good. You may bring all friendly creature within 10 feet. That's really good. Enlarge Person Mass is basically just you enlarge your whole party. Elemental Body is you buff your body to become an elemental spirit. I haven't really tried that one myself. It's cool, but not really good. Dragon's Breath is you breathe out a blast of energy. Creatures in affected area take 1d6 point of energy damage per caster level. A successful reflex. So basically, it's a fireball, but you choose the type of damage. That can be insanely strong, since demons, which this game has a lot, are gonna reduce fire damage. False Life Greater gives you more life than False Life, but it's still the same. Fear is a cone, and you fear them, basically. Greater Invincibility is better invincibility. It won't end if you attack, I think. Overwhelming Grief is like Crushing Despair, but instead you'll get -2 to armor class and dexterity bonuses. Obsidian Flow is like Acid Pit, kind of, not really, but kind of. It deals damage and then it puts them into place, and they can reflex save to take less damage, and then they have to do a check that's like athletic or mobility to get out of it. Ice Storm is a storm for 1 round per level, and it's gonna deal damage every round. It's kind of good if you can keep them there. So like, hey, Grease into Ice Storm, wombo combo. Phantasmal Killer is basically you target a creature, they can will save it, and they take a bunch of damage if they don't. And they are, I'm just gonna check, it's been a while. Okay, so if they don't succeed the will save, they die. It's a bunch of saves to try to save yourself, but you can literally kill someone directly. Rainbow Pattern is a point at medium range, and it fascinates up to 24 hit dice of creature. 24 hit dice is not that much, but it's pretty good if you have a few enemies. Reduce person is... it's decent. Reduce person mass is like reducing everybody in your party. Summon medium elemental is a summoning spell. I haven't played with it much, but it's alright, I suppose. Shout. You emit a shout, and they're stunned for 1 minute, unless they do a fortitude. And they take a bunch of damage unless they pass a fortitude check. Shadow Conjuration, I'm not gonna lie, I never used this one. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of text. Look, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know this one, I never used it, it's not that good, alright? Summon Monster 4 is probably the most worth of them all if you have to take a summoning spell. I think the options are really good in that. I don't remember the exact options, but I know they are pretty decent. Touch of Slime is damage, constitution damage. And they basically just coat in slime. And what does it do? I don't remember. Okay, so they just take 1d3 constitution damage per round. Okay. Volcanic Storm, big damage at first, and then for every turn they take damage. Creatures inside the area has -4 penalty on perception skill check. And it's all treated as difficult terrain, so they move slower. So hey, combo with grease and everything. Enervation is another race spell, and they take negative levels. That's pretty good, but race spells are annoying. Like I said earlier, you need to hit the spell with a touch range attack, and then they need to fail the save. So, you know, that's kind of hard. This one, though, doesn't have any saving. It's just they take the negative levels. So that can be really, really good. Bone Shatter is like the last one, Brittle Bone, I think. I don't remember the name. But basically they deal 1d6 per caster level up to 15d6. And then they become exhausted for 1 minute per caster level from the pain of the transformation. If they succeed, they take half damage and are fatigued. So this is like direct damage, and they can save for half, but it's guaranteed damage. Bestow Curse, you give them a curse. I'll just put them here so you can pause the video and check. And basically, they have to pass a will saving throw, or they get one of those curses. Obviously, you're not going to use it on someone who has a high will save, but can always be good. Protection from Energy Communal is the same thing as Protection from Energy, but for your entire party. Remove Curse. In this game, you will have a lot of curses. And this basically removes a bunch of them. You might need to do it more often, but you can always save scum it to remove as many as possible. And it's really, really useful. Stone Skin I got randomly. I don't even know why I have it. But you get resistance to blow, cuts, stab, and slashes. You get 10 damage reduction. So every time you take damage, you ignore 10 of those. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Symbol of Revelation. Again, I'm not sure. This rune is only activated by invisible creature. Creatures affected by an illusion effect. Creature with the shape changer effect. Okay, so basically they're going to be under the fairy fire effect. So we're going to be able to see them, and they're going to be easier to hit if they are invisible. On this row, a few of my favorites are obviously Animate Dead, because I love Necromancy. Contagion is pretty high up there, and Bone Shatter is guaranteed damage. Bestow Curse is good if you can make sure you're going to succeed it, which you probably will be most of the time against low wisdom creatures. besides that, I mean, there's not that much. Dimensional Door is very good to be able to transport yourself to another location along with your squishier party member. But besides that, there's not really that much. Volcanic Storm can be good, and Ice Storm also, but I suspect it's not the best right now. So by level, I'll just go over it once again, real quick. For level 1, I suggest Grease, Reduce Person, Magic Missile are probably the best ones to take in general for a great understanding. If you only want to take one of them, Grease is probably the best option here. On the second level, Burning Arc is pretty good if you need guaranteed damage, which you might. But Glitter Dust is insane at keeping your party alive. Probably better than anything else here. Yeah. On the third row, Haste is by far the best spell in the early game. So if you need to take anything from this, Haste is your boy. If not, Sinking Cloud is always very, very, very useful. And on the fourth level, I love Animate Dead, but I would probably recommend Dimensional Door or more damage if you need it. Phantasmal Killer can just kill someone. Reduce Person Mask can be good if you have a mainly dexterous party, like I do, but she would get reduced. Like, I'm not sure if I want to reduce everybody yet. And that's about it. I hope the video was useful. If you guys learned anything or enjoyed it, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys in the next guide for Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous.